So sometimes what we think here locally or media assessments locally aren't quite the same as what is stated on a national level, right? Because, hey, you think to yourself too, are we a little bit too close to it? Sometimes, however, being close to it is not a bad thing, especially when somehow, some way, your assessments locally bump into what national assessments are. What are we talking about? We are talking about ranking every NFL's teams 2020. Okay, we're starting that over because you
Yeah, let's
can't
go
even
ahead.
fix that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
go ahead. Yeah,
there's no editing that'll fix okay. So okay, we'll start over.
Here we go.
Three, two, one. Now, locally, we actually believe, have always believed, even though we may not have agreed on Bijan Robinson as the number 8 pick, not so much about Bijan, it was the number 8 pick. What we did agree on, however, was that he made the Falcons' backfield exponentially better, right?
Yes.
Well, it appears that there are some national writers who feel the same. In fact, For the Win, that's part of USA Today, ranked every NFL team's 2023 running back rotations from the Cardinals to the Falcons, worst to first. So, Cardinals, worst. Number 32 in the league with the likes of James Conner, Keontae Ingram, and Corey Clement. But then you get to the cream of the crop, Jarvis. And I'll actually take us real quick from number 5 to number 1
Mm-hmm.
because that's some really good company that the Falcons find themselves in. So the Seahawks are ranked 5 with Kenneth Walker III, Zach Charbonnet, DJ Dallas. And then
Mm-hmm.
number 4 goes to the Detroit Lions, which I love because local product from Georgia Tech and Alabama, Jahmyr Gibbs, Craig
Yes.
Reynolds, David Montgomery. Number 3, your Colts with Jonathan Taylor, Zach Moss, Deion Jackson. And number 2, the 49ers. And the reason I say that is because when the 49ers picked up Christian McCaffrey last year, Eli Mitchell, Tyrion Davis Price, everyone thought, wow, that McCaffrey pick, that would vault the 49ers into otherworldly status, which he definitely was a good addition. But I say that to say, for him to have taken the field and done what he did last year,
Mm-hmm.
and for the Falcons to still be ranked number 1, according to this article, with the likes of course, Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Cordero Patterson, you absolutely have to love it because what they're basically saying, Jarvis, is this: the Falcons made their game plan terribly clear in 2022. We are going to run it down your throats, and we dare you to stop us. But here's the thing: they said, wait a minute, as good as we were in running it down your throats in 2022, we're going to get better in 2023 at running it down your throats because we got a guy who can do that and then some in Bijan Robinson. So, Jarvis, do you agree with the ranking at number 1?
Absolutely. Because when you think about like what those running backs bring to the table, and I'm gonna use a buzzword, the versatility, right? Because let's start with Cordero Patterson. Now, Cordero Patterson is originally a wide receiver, so there's a formation factor that comes into play when he's like, okay, so when Cordero Patterson and Tyler Algier in the game, is he gonna line up at running back or is he gonna line up at wide receiver? He gonna line up outside? Cordero Patterson has that versatility, right? Now you bring in Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson has been, I want to let y'all know, in on a little secret. Arthur Smith had him lining up outside too. So those are the type of things that I feel like is going to make you be versatile in what you bring to the table on Sundays and what defenses have to prepare for. And then you got the batting ram in Tyler Algier and what he's bringing to the table. And he talked about how he wants to, learn from Bijan in that manner, right? Not only just be the guy that he gonna be that one cut and go type of running back and come in on the goal line and get you what you need to get into the end zone, but he wants to be versatile as well, catching the ball out of the backfield. So when you have these guys that can kind of move these chess pieces that you can move around and be effective, you know that 2 of them have already been effective. And everybody agrees that Bijan is going to be effective in the NFL. That talent is going to transfer. I just think that there's no other backfield in the NFL that I feel that you can put above the Atlanta Falcons.
I would agree. And I think the versatility that you mentioned is important because, yeah, ultimately they're selecting these guys because of their ability to run. We understand that. And the fact that if we were excited about Tyler Algier being 1,000-yard rusher last year, you might get 1,500 or so out of Bijan Robinson this
Right.
year. So it takes nothing away from that. But I also think you make a great point about that versatility. And like you mentioned, he was lined up outside, also lined up in the slot when we took a look at him at OTAs a couple of weeks ago. So yeah, that versatility piece I think is going to be critical to what makes them successful. But also, I think when you look at the fact that, hey, Tyler Algier had 711 yards in the final 9 games of his rookie season. There were games, if I remember correctly, a couple of the early games where everyone was like, okay, is he dressing out?
He didn't
Is he
even
gonna
dress
fly?
out the
He
first
didn't
game of the
even
season,
exactly. Like, yeah. So people forget about that, because folks love to say, oh, well, it was a 17-game season. Not for him, it wasn't, because he didn't dress out all 17 games. So
Right.
if you got to give credit where credit is due for his ability, and also for his ability to average nearly, I mean, this guy was closing in on 6 yards per carry. That's pretty darn impressive. I also think one of the positives in having these two is that it gives Cordero Patterson the ability to come in and be exactly what you said he could be, like Tyler Algier, also a bruising back. My thought about him is he's another guy who gives you an option in that low red zone to be able to punch it in as well. And
Right.
ultimately speaking, I think when you have that three-headed monster, you can just go out there and do what the Falcons did last season, but do it better, which is just absolutely, positively sit on the clock. And speaking of that, that could be one of the most beneficial aspects of why this running back core is going to mean so much to the Falcons, Jarvis, because you look at what they're able to do in controlling the clock and how that can ultimately help their defense.
Yeah, like just from a rest standpoint and just being
Yes.
being rested, and and one of the things that the Falcons have to be better and better in, and that's in the red zone, right? That running game and that versatility and being able to throw different formations and having those guys all in the game at the same time. A lot of times defenses aren't going to know exactly what you're going to do, and that's when you talk about in that immediate, in those tight windows, when defenses have to make decisions really quickly, that can be to your advantage each and every time. But on the other side, like you talking about, not going 3 and out, sustaining drives. I think those are going to be some of the things that is going to help the defense and from a rest standpoint. And a lot of times when you're scoring points, you're scoring more points in the red zone, that's going to put the defense in a situation where the offense is going to be playing catch up. And what happens when they play catch up? They have to throw the ball. So, and those are some of the things that, help or going to help this team holistically. I feel because, like you said, they were a really good running team last year. And you add to that room, they're looking at being looked at as the number one running back room in the league. And they're probably the most versatile running back room in the league as well. So I think all those things kind of factor in helping out the defense. And then when you have some guys who are a little bit longer in the tooth teeth, that's going to help you in the long run as being a sustainable defense. Because at the end of the day, you don't need a dominating defense this year in particular. You just need an effective one and some ones that can get you some turnovers and get you some short fields to work with.
Yeah, and if you have the ability to put that kind of pressure on the other offense where they are forced to throw, especially in late game situations, your youngest core is your secondary.
Right.
So, in order, like you said, if you can keep a Calais Campbell from having to play an inordinate amount of snaps, that's in your favor. And
Right.
if you're getting in the position to where you're like, you know what, we'll put it in the hands of an AJ Terrell or a Jesse Bates, a Richie Grant to be able to do this. That's your fresh legs. Those are your young
Yeah.
legs. So let those guys cook because you've done what you came to do. First of all, you kept the ball out of the other team's hands because you kept it on the ground. That's number one. And number two, you were able to be more effective in the red zone when you kept it on the ground. And that's something that we've been watching. And we've seen an uptick. One thing about Arthur Smith's offense is we've seen an uptick in the red zone from the Dan Quinn days, and I don't doubt that we're going to see the same here. The other piece there is this: when those situations come up where maybe the Falcons aren't able to convert on third down, but if you are at least eating up yards, if you will, what does that do? That helps your special teams. That helps to be able to pin that offense deep in their own territory. Again, advantage to the defense. So yeah, I like what the article was talking about. And to your point as well, when you look at those top 5 offenses or those top 5 running back cores,
Right.
all of them have at least one, if not all 3, like a Jahmyr Gibbs, like a David Montgomery, like a Christian McCaffrey. All of those guys are the versatile backs who are also pass catchers. So yeah, the formula is definitely noticeable in the top 5, but I do believe that the Falcons will be the ones who actually set the stage in helping you to understand not just what the formula looks like, but executing on that formula as well. But let us know you guys' thoughts. I mean, we know right now it's only paper. Everybody's just on paper for the most part for the Falcons. Other teams have some more veterans in their backfield. But everydayers, do you like the fact, and do you think that this indeed is or could be the best backfield in the NFL? Let us know your thoughts. Check us out on YouTube. Don't forget to drop us a comment. We are always interested to see what you think about not just our thoughts, but also the show overall as well. Now, don't just stop at YouTube, because, hey, if you're driving down the streets of Atlanta, we do not want you watching us. That's what we want you listening. So make sure you download us wherever you download the rest of your podcasts, or when you're in this crazy traffic, you can hear the amazing tones of one Jarvis Davis and one Tenitra Batiste right here on ATL Day Ones.